Allow me to introduce myself. I am the Count Frightculous, and I will be your guide into the chill, spooky scariness of the world, and maybe even perhaps the universe. But our journey now takes us down the road of scary stories. Scary stories contained in books that have been long ago forgotten, been hidden away in boxes, and that have been stored in closets and attics and basements, and everywhere there would be clutter stored. But now a lot of these stories have been able to be rediscovered. They have come out. Maybe you can find them at an antique shop or a thrift store, or maybe somebody's having a yard sale. But you can find these books maybe very cheap, even though the stories contained within them may be very expensively scary. Yes, perhaps. And that is what we are here to do. We are going to rate and we are going to review these stories. We will do the reviewing actually, and the rating will be done by the Demon Baby. She will rate it based on a head spin, one head spin being a little bit scary, 5 head spins being the most scary, where everybody's head is spinning at that point. And so now, as we wait, we will now find a book of scary stories to review. So now, we are going to start our review of the scary stories. But first, we must choose out of the hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of scary story books that are out there. So how will we find the book that we are going to review now? The door. The banging at the door. I think that will be our answer. Let's find out who it is. Yes, it's the Grim Picker, and he has brought us the book of scary stories that we will review now. And I must warn you, never deny the choice of the Grim Picker. Once the decision is made, it must not be undone, and this is no exception. So now, let us begin our review of the scary stories. And so now, we are ready to review this book of scary stories. Are you ready? Here we go. And so as I look at the cover right away, it's very appropriately called Scary Tales. So that right there draws me in. I like the scary stories, don't you? So with that cover, with that title, you would say, okay, we're in for some scary tales. But at the top too though, we have to also see in a small, they want to add a little more punch to it. They put here at the top, spooky stories, scary tales. Well, what do I always say? The chilling, spooky scariness of the world. So here we go, spooky, scary stories. But the cover is kind of, I don't know what to think. It's not so much that it just draws you in right away. It's a woman, kind of, I would say somewhat attractive woman here maybe. She's dressed very elegantly. She's got a huge bullwhip of some kind, and she's fighting off these creatures that are coming at her from all sides on this very strange platform she's standing on. So we just assume that maybe something in the book will have to do with this, but it doesn't draw me in. I don't see that and think, oh, scary tales. There's a very nice looking woman whipping away monsters, but I guess that would be a scary tale to tell, but we'll have to see as we go inside the book. So as we open up the book though, we see right away there's an introduction, and we see that there is a woman that looks exactly like the woman on the front cover, and her name is Countess von Blood. And we find out that she's actually kind of the narrator for these stories. Think of like Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, how she would intro the movies and give comments. Well, this is what you get the feeling this kind of scary story book is about. So it starts out, there's a small introduction to introduce the idea of this. These kids go into a haunted house, they discover the coffin that she's sleeping in, and she comes out and they get scared, but she says, oh, don't run away, you know, I like little children, and here, let me tell you some scary stories. Right here, I love little children, especially plump ones. Come inside and I will tell you such wonderful, scary tales. Now here is fun you will love. Trying to do her voice, I'm having a little trouble with that. Anyway, so let's just go into the stories. That's just to set it up. I mean, I'm just covering the whole book, review. It's okay. I mean, I didn't mind the Elvira, right? She was very much candy for the eyes, of course. But, you know, she had some good humor there. She did all of those scary movies back in the day on television. I think you can still see them if you go on, you know, YouTube or some of these other online channels. I think you can find them. I know she did a movie one time, the Elvira movie. So I think this is really just whoever created this book of scary stories used that idea and came up with their own, and she's Countess von Blood. Okay, the first story is called The Vampire's Bride. Ooh. Anytime there's a vampire, we know it's going to be scary. But this story is about a couple who gets married and they're on their honeymoon, but then right away there's some kind of vampire attack and they are sent home. And then we have just some very mysterious things going on, and then in the end, you know, is it one of them that was the vampire? So let's start right away here. In 1835, when his lordship, Clive Medill, took unto himself a lovely bride, Lady Martha, they planned a honeymoon in the Balkans, where they were guests of a royal cousin, Count Mikhail Lukosi. The nuptial suite was incredibly ludicrous. Oh, I'm sorry, not Luke. I misread that. Let me read that again. The nuptial suite was incredibly luxurious for its time, and they were blissfully happy in those first days of marriage. Oh, darling, I've been so happy since I married you. That's it. That's all the happiness. One panel is all we get. All of a sudden, we see the castle from far away, and we hear a loud shrieking right away. But that night, someone in the castle wasn't happy. Maybe they weren't happy from all the noise coming from the honeymoon suite. They were trying to get some sleep, and Clive and Martha were not allowing that to happen. You know, those castle rooms can be very echoey, right? No, just chiquete, just a little humor there. Let's get back into the story. Forget I said that. Here we go. We see this screaming, and we see a monk. For some reason, he's standing out there by himself, just hanging out, and he says, "The vampire has struck again." Okay, I guess the monk is keeping count, you know. Here we go. The scream was still echoing through the castle when Lord Medill leaped from the canopy bed. His first thought was for Lady Martha, but someone screamed, "Where is Martha? Bessie, where is your mistress?" "How should I know, your lordship? I was sound asleep in me little bed." Martha's wandering around. She's been scratched on the neck, but now, who? And I don't know if that's supposed to be but how, who, or but now, who. But we see there, Martha appears to be the one that was bit on the neck. We see Clive there, you know. Clive kind of looks a little bit like a vampire. It looks like Clive the one that did it, but anyway, that's just the artist's rendition. Let's not get too much into the semantics. Let's keep moving with the story. "Bessie, are you all right?" "Of course I am, Mom. Why shouldn't I be?" Mikhail comes in and says, "Cousin Clive, in the morning you must leave. I regret ending your idyll with us so abruptly, but there are reasons why you cannot stay." "I believe I understand, Mikhail." "Yes, Mikhail, you don't have to explain. There's a vampire loose, okay? You don't have to explain." "It's the old curse, isn't it, Mikhail?" "Yes, cousin, I believe that Father Stefani and I had rid the valley of the last vampire, but one infected with the evil serum of vampirism still exists and has struck tonight in this castle." So when Mikhail is saying, "Hey, I think you're gonna have to leave for some reason. We're gonna have to send you home. And Clive is like, yeah, I understand. Yeah, I understand. It's a vampire. I'm more than happy to leave right away. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, well, we don't want to alarm you, but you're gonna have to leave. I think the screaming and the fact that, you know, everyone is panicking about a vampire, that's a good reason. And the fact that my bride had the marks on the neck, they don't even mention that. So they decide they're going to leave. Mikhail says, we know how to deal with vampires, Clive. After you depart in the morning, I shall personally examine everyone in my household for a sign that he or she has been infected. The vampire's victim will himself become a vampire. What a horrible thought. It is quite scary to think that you are now going to become a bloodthirsty monster. And then Bessie, you know, here's Bessie. She's the maid mistress of Martha, we find. And he says, would he close the lid, your lordship? I feel ever so much safer snug inside me little traveling bed if the lid is down. Of course, Bessie. And then he's thinking, how can she stand sleeping in that box? Yes, this woman is very small. Apparently she's sleeping inside of a suitcase. I know you've had Bessie with you for years, Martha, but let me find you a different maid. I couldn't do that to poor Bessie, dearest. No one else can stand her. I mean, Bessie doesn't seem to take up a lot of room. She's very small. She's not going to eat a lot. You can put her in a box and store her away. So I don't see how Bessie's going to be that much trouble. So months to go by, they're having a nice time. They're you know, newly married couple. But then we get to a point where all of a sudden, one day, he hears the hacking noise, like someone is chopping something. Baxter, stop doing that. Who told you to chop that down? This note, your lordship, in your handwriting, ordered me to have the cross removed. I told Baxter you fool, this note is a forgery. You should have confirmed it with me before you had the cross destroyed. So as he's dealing with things, Clive is dealing with things, the mistress right here, we see Lord Medell went out to inspect his vast holdings that day. His wife, Lady Martha, inspected her domain, the castle. See there, mistress, a coffin. Nonsense, why would a coffin be down here? A coffin? Perhaps the vampire cousin Mikhail did find the victim. If he bit Clive, then my husband is a vampire. And then later we see Clive, and I found these on Martha's desk. She's been practicing forging my handwriting. But what? The note to the butler ordering the cross cut down. Why did Martha hate that cross? It was put there to prevent fiends and spirits from spirits, vampires. No, I won't believe it. Not Martha. So as we see, somebody, and I'm going to just tell you right now, Bessie, is trying to pit them against each other. So now she thinks he's the vampire, he thinks she's the vampire, but we can probably guess who the real vampire is going to be. Ha ha. That evening after dinner, Clive and Martha played whilst in the library until nearly 9 when a glass of port, your lordship. Excellent idea, Bessie. Martha, you'll join me, of course. But they both pour the wine out, and then here they even say, undoubtedly the wine was drugged. Soon I'll know whether or not she's a vampire. He'll probably get up and go to the vampire's coffin he has in the cellar. And then they hear a creak of the door, and they both are still awake waiting, and then they jump up. And it's, Bessie, no, you didn't drink the wine, so you must die. Get away from her, you fiend. It was Bessie, darling. She's a vampire, but I'll deal with her. But how? She can only be killed with a wooden stake through her heart. A silver bullet can also kill a vampire, and I cast these silver bullets today. Again, I don't think that if you look up killing the vampire, they say it's the wooden stake, not the silver bullets. The silver bullets are for the werewolves. But in some instances, you see stories where they're using silver bullets on the vampire too. What do you think? Do you think the silver bullets do kill the vampire, or is it the wooden stake and the silver bullets are for the werewolf? So I don't know why in these stories, I know this is the second story, scary story, that we've seen where they're trying to use silver bullets against a vampire. It doesn't matter that they were silver bullets because look, Bessie screamed, did you? No, Martha, I missed. So even though he was shooting silver bullets, he missed. It wouldn't matter. But Bessie fell out of the balcony and oh no, Bessie fell directly on the jagged stump of the cross. She's dead then. It's best this way, my love. And that's the end of the story. Now, there's only one thing that I have that is a bit disturbing, and I had to think about it and figure out what happened in this, because it's very confusing. We see at the very beginning, when the vampire comes out, there's a panel right here where we see Martha with the bite marks on her neck. But then as we move along, nobody ever makes mention of this. And as they're going, well, who's the vampire? Clive, maybe he just didn't want to say. At first you think, well, maybe he didn't want to say Martha because, you know, they're going to destroy that vampire. But then as the story moves along, and then the two of them are going, well, maybe he's the vampire, maybe he's the vampire. Clive, you don't need to worry about forging the handwriting. You have all the evidence you need. The bite marks on the neck, my friend. But they don't mention it. But then I realized it was supposed to be Bessie, right? We find out it was Bessie. So I think what they did is something happened here with the artwork. The artist messed up and drew this panel, and they didn't fix it. Because if you look at the words he used, she's been scratched on the neck. So see, he didn't say she was bit on the neck. He said she was scratched. So I think they covered that up by saying, hey, just put that she was scratched and just don't mention it again. Just hopefully the reader will forget about it. Because these books, when they were made a long time ago, they would put them out pretty quick, and they probably didn't want to take the time to totally redo the whole page. So I think that is my deduction, if I may deduce something here, that they just tried to cover it up. Because there's no mistaking that she was bit, but they never made mention. And they were talking about turning into the vampire and everything else. So to me, the story, I liked that the fact they were trying to pit one another against each other. There was that little bit of suspense of, did you do it, did he do it? And then it turned out to be Bessie, the maid. But the fact that you see the bite marks at the very beginning, the whole story, I'm going, well, wait a minute though, what about the bite mark? What about the bite mark? So kind of took away from the scariness there, right? Anyway, let's get on to the next story, which is titled, The Wedding Gift. And that doesn't sound very foreboding or spooky, but let's go into the story. What we find out is there's a small village, and there's a big castle up on the hill, and the village is down below, and apparently this man who owns the castle is very wealthy, and he has his armed guards and everything block off any exits out of the village. And so they're trapped. The townspeople are trapped in this village, and he will go down there every once in a while and just gather up some people and take them prisoners and throw them in the dungeon in his castle. You think, this guy's a lunatic. What is he doing this for? Just for fun because he's evil? Well, yes, more than likely. But he comes across, well, not more than likely, he is evil, of course. He comes across a woman who tries to save her father or something, and you know, she's very brave, so he likes that. And he takes her as his bride and takes her into the castle, and that's where she finds out where the real evil is. And so now let's go ahead and review this story right now. Scary story time, yes. In the 15th century, Count Gregor von Blood ruled the people huddled in the dark valley beneath the castle on the crags. On the only road in or out of the valley, the nobleman had stationed men-at-arms who struck down any peasant who tried to flee the hideous fates that would soon befall them. And every now and then, the Count rode forth, usually just as darkness fell, at the head of a heavily armed band, with one evil purpose: he needed victims. There's one for the dungeon. Seize him. Spare me, Excellency. Here's another for the dungeon. No, Rosa, you cannot save your father now. He is doomed. I do not fear this tyrant count. You idiot, I warned you, do not spill their blood wastefully. You shall not take my father, you fiend. I will die before I stand aside. You will not die, girl. I have never seen a woman more comely than you. So here's the woman trying to save her father. Let me go, monster. You have courage. You are a fit mate to rule at my side. I want at least 20 healthy adults, Lizak. See to it, I will personally escort the lady to my castle. You are cursed, fiend. From the moment on, you will know only pain, hunger, and death. Shut your mouth, woman, or I'll have you cast from the battlements. So as you can see, they both have a very strong personality about them, right? But Of course, he's the one in control of this matter because he owns the castle and has all the guards. She's just a helpless woman in this situation, but she doesn't seem so helpless. She seems very strong and courageous, even though she probably could have died at any moment if he decided to. But she's very aggressive against him, so that's what he likes. He likes that, all right? So there you go. You know, it's kind of scary, the fact that he's just taking these people and rounding them up into the dungeons. It's crazy. That's horrible if you think about it. It's very frightening. So that part is scary. You're thinking, wow, they're just helpless in this little town, and he just swoops down and picks people out at random and throws them in a dungeon. It's crazy times back then. Crazy times in the medieval times. And so the Count has them married, and he marries the woman, and she becomes his countess. She says, I don't really have anything nice to wear for you. I came here, you brought me, I have nothing. And he said, don't worry, you're not my first wife. There's lots of clothes and jewelry that you can put on. Just go with the Olga there. She will be your assistant, and you can try on these clothes, and I will see you later. She notices, though, when they go up to the tower, she says, the windows are barred, Olga, and the door is made of thick iron. Why? Is it a bridal suite or a prison? The Count's first wife tried to run away. He tried to keep her here, but she escaped him by leaping from the tower. You should pray for her, Countess. Why, Olga? Because though he barred the window to imprison his wife, those bars also serve to keep anyone out, even a vampire. Ooh, there we go. Now we know the Count is most likely a vampire. Well, not most likely, he is. Why would he be rounding up the people, telling them, don't spill the blood, be careful with the blood? I heard whispers, Olga. Is it true? Is Von Blood really a... Yes, Countess, he lives on the blood of the prisoners in the dungeons, but you must never let him near you after the sun goes down. For obvious reasons, of course. When Olga left, I locked a massive door and dressed in the finery I found in the first Countess's closets. It'll be sunrise in a few hours. Vampires don't dare face the sun. She tried to rest, but she was very distraught about the whole thing, and she could hear screaming down below, so it was very hard for her to sleep. She knows what's going on. He's killed the people, drinking their blood. But then she says, there is something the Count Von Blood doesn't know. And we see here, more water, I'm dying of fever. Then die, fool. We will take others from the village in your place. Not unless you hurry, soon no one will be left alive in the valley. Now I am on fire, my stomach hurts, my head, what's wrong? Didn't you know, fool? That's all we get. We're like, what? All of a sudden now, we have the Count here, and he's banging on the door. Open this door, wife, I must get to bed at once, it grows light. He says, let me in or I'll break down the door. Sleep in another room, Excellency, I have already retired. She's like, I'm already going to bed, you go find you another room. He says, I have gone without sleep too long, I grow dizzy. Olga, my maid, came and told me the Count was snoring in another part of the castle. This gave me time. Olga, there is plague in the valley. The Count and his guards have brought it into the castle. I had the plague when I was a child, Countess. So that's telling us she's immune, I suppose. You know, that's the thing. It's called natural immunity. Like once you have a disease, you build a natural immunity to it. And a lot of times you are safe from getting it or getting it again or even getting it there. This is a lesson we can learn in the present day, is it not, right? That there is such a thing as natural immunity. Even in these scary stories, they understand that that is true. But it's very convenient for this story because Olga now we know is not going to get the plague. There are certain things I will need, for soon the Count will be desperately in need of living victims. I hoped I would escape the plague, Olga, but I am ill too. Soon I will die unless you help me. But how, Countess? It is night again. I dare not venture outside this room. We see the Count, and he realizes all of the people are dying. They die very quickly, though. The plague hits you, and you're dead. You're dropping like flies. This is that's a saying they use, but in this case, it must be true. They really are just dropping like flies. I mean, as soon as they get the plague, about 30 seconds later, oh, my stomach, my head, I'm dizzy. They're dead, right? So it's crazy, but the story has to move along very quickly, I guess, right? They only have a certain amount of pages to tell this. And we see him as a bat flying around. He's like, dead, all dead. And here, the fools are all dead. Not even my own staff survive. I must find someone. And he's very angry. He's got to find someone, you know. And here's a little foreshadowing. If you see, there's a picture of the castle. He's flying around through the village, I guess. And then you see the castle up on the hill. The way that the artist rendered this, you know, it sort of has that death face there. It looks like a skull, you know. It's kind of silhouetted with the castle. So it's kind of a foreshadowing, showing the death has fallen over the valley, is what I take that. Little subtle things like that sometimes that artists can put in there. So always pay attention. Really look at the art when you're reading and things, because you will notice things like that. And it's very cool. So, you know, it's fun when you can find little Easter eggs, they call them. I guess you could call them that in a way. I think that's a term now people use to find hidden things or see things that weren't clearly pointed out, but you notice them. And so he says, but not now, I must wait until sundown. We knew, for we had seen the huge vampire bat flying from the castle, and Olga saw it return at dawn. In another day, I too shall die, little friend, unless you understand what you must do. Yes, milady, at sundown we shall be ready for him. With Olga's unselfish aid, I was dressed in my finery, and the death vigil began. Has the sun gone down, dear friend? It grows dark, milady. He will come soon. I pray he arrives in time. To think I must rely on one so evil to give me life. Now I will go to my love. She has not yet given me my wedding present, but she shall. Huh. It's a very sinister look on his face. Look how beautiful Countess is there. And then look at his face, very evil. That is Beauty and the Beast for sure. The little fool, she thinks iron doors and bars can protect her from me. She will soon realize the strength of a vampire is unlimited. I am your husband, woman. The door is open, Excellency. I like that. That's a funny part right there. I have to comment on that. It's funny. He's like, I'm going to break, you know. He's acting like she's trying to hide, and, you know, he's going to break down the door, and she's very nonchalant. Oh, the door's open. Like, that was kind of funny. I like that. As you see, darling, I have not long to live. You would soon die in any case, woman. There would not be room for two vampires in one household, so prepare for death. The imagery is very scary, I will say. The artist does a good job putting the different angles and some lighting there. I like it. It's very scary looking here. Here you see his mouth opening, going to bite her. You know, she looks very calm and peaceful, very, very beautiful, and he looks just hideous. He's a hideous monster. Looks like he's got slobber all over his mouth. I don't know if they just didn't color the mouth all the way in, but he's got like slobber all over his mouth as he's whiting with his teeth to go into the bite. You were so beautiful, too lovely to die so young. I thought that too, husband. Thank you, darling. The arrow. I cannot die. You are a vampire, husband, as I too have become, but you will be a dead vampire because the bolt from the crossbow was a wooden stake, which is fatal to any and all vampires. She's pretty smart, right? She knew she was dying of the plague, and she knew her husband needed to feast because everyone was dead. So she said, I will let him bite me, and I will become a vampire, but then I have to make sure that he dies because she knows, just as he said, there cannot be two vampires in one household, for there would be a lot of conflict there, right? They'd be fighting over the blood every single night, and oh, that would become very tiresome very quickly, right? I mean, hey, that's my blood. No, that's my blood. This is my victim. Get away from my victim. You know, it just caused a lot of tension in the room. So we finish it off really quick. Now I have become a vampire. I wonder where my trusting little friend Olga is at the moment. She became a vampire very quickly. In some of these stories you see they become a vampire over months, and then others they're a vampire within like 3 seconds. But I guess in this world, in the world of this story, you know, people die from the plague within about 30 seconds. So I guess becoming a vampire, you know, you would become a vampire in about 10 seconds, right? So there you go. Okay. Oh, Olga, I feel much better, dear. And she finds a note. Dearest Countess, if you read this note, you will have survived the plague, but will have fallen victim to a far more hideous sickness, vampirism. So I have prepared your coffin in which all vampires slumber and bid you goodbye. May we never meet again. Olga. Olga's very smart. Not only did Olga have the plague, so she wasn't going to get sick, but she knew as soon as that woman became a vampire, the plan that the Countess had set up, she's like, I'm going to have to be as far away from this place as I can get. And she did. She must have shot that crossbow and bolted as fast as that crossbow hit the vampire. She was on a wagon and heading as far away as she could get, right? So, good on you, Olga. She's safely away, and I'm glad, for had she remained, I'm glad she's gone. And then we had the character in the story talk to you as the audience, so it turns around and we get the idea of what's going on with this scary book here. Do not fear, you red-blooded normal humans. I live a long way off, and we will never meet, but from time to time, I will tell you of this nether world in which I live. So she's basically the Countess von Blood. Figured that out because her husband's name was Von Blood, and she's the Countess, and she's the red-headed wearing the very elegant dress there, as we saw from the front cover. So, and with the little children, you know, she said, hey, I'll tell you a story, kind of comical there, but that's what this book, I guess, is. She's setting, this was the origin of the Countess von Blood, that last story, which was kind of scary. There were a few scary moments, you know, the fact that they would trap these villagers and just basically using them for food, just picking them out at random and drinking their blood, you know, and then there was a plague that goes through. So not only, I mean, how scary was it for those villagers? Not only are they dealing with a vampire who will randomly eat them, you know, drink their blood, kill them, they're helpless to get away, but then there's a plague hit. So if you don't die from the plague, you're going to die from the vampire. Pick your poison, basically. You're doomed either way. And that pretty much sums up the medieval times. It was very harsh and very tragic most of the time. I don't think you had a very great life. You didn't know any different, so you wouldn't have known. But to think about what we have now and to think about how it was then, that was a horrible time of history. Be thankful you are here at this time. And with that, at this time now, we are going to get the official rating of this book of scary stories from none other than the Demon Baby. Now that we have the Demon Baby aware and awake and she's ready to give us an official rating for these stories of scariness, let us see what it is. Will she give it for now? I see she's giving it one head spin. There we go, one head spin for these scary stories. And now let's see what else. 2 head spins, 2 head spins. There we go. Any more, Demon Baby? Will she give us any more head spins? Other than 2, that seems to be about the average most of the time. And there we go. She's still sitting there. She's keeping us in a little bit of suspense because we can see she's still aware, and I guess she's thinking about that. What do you have there? Okay, I don't want to rush you there, the Demon Baby, of course. I would never do that, but, you know, people may have some things they need to accomplish and get done. They may have some chores, or some homework, I don't know. So if you could just let us know. She's still there, okay. That's it. Oh, okay, there, she left. All right, well, I don't know why she put us in such a suspense, but either way, that was a little spooky, right? I mean, you're waiting and waiting, it's building suspense, but unfortunately, there was not much at the end of that suspense. It was just, that's about it. So anyway, I'm really starting to wonder, when are we going to find the scary book that the Demon Baby will find scary, right? Where she will jump off the charts, maybe give us 3 or even 4 heads. Can you imagine all of these are 2 head spins? Which, yeah, you may say, they've nothing really been that scary. So, you know, you're right on cue there with the Demon Baby. But, you know, I'm just saying, everybody's scare ability is different. But obviously the Demon Baby is a lot more strict, right? She has a higher bar to reach to get to the very scary. With that, I hope you have enjoyed the video. You might want to consider subscribe so you can see the next one and the next one as we keep reviewing these scary stories. And who knows, maybe one time we'll have something other than just the scary book of stories. But there's so many of them to explore that we really want to keep diving in, delving into them, right? So with that, maybe you have a scary story you would like to share. Maybe you can add that into comments. I really need to find a way for people to maybe to write in and share some, give us some, like, hey, I have a scary story that I made. Can I have it reviewed by you, Count Frightculous? I don't know. Add in the comments if you would like to do that. And maybe we can start to set something like that up, huh? What do you think? Would you like to have your scary stories reviewed here on Count Frightculous? And have the official rating by the Demon Baby. Oh, that would be very, very fun, I think. Very fun and very spooktacular, as they say. Okay, anyway. All right. We should probably start to wrap up now. I'm feeling like we're dragging this one out a little long, don't you? Okay, let's go. That's all right. Let's go now. All right. Anyway, I'm saying that a lot. I have to stop. I'm saying anyway. All right. And all right. All right. Anyway. All right. Anyway. You can use those two words for everything, right? Right. Okay. I was almost going to say anyway, but I caught myself. With that, I'm going to bid you a farewell. And I have to say, I wish you a very chilling, spooky, yet keep it peaceful scariness. Until next time.